All right, guys, let's dive into what might be one of the most talked about moments on television this week. You know, it's not every day we see a clash of opinions about, well, Jesus on national TV, but that's exactly what went down on The View recently. So, Jonathan Roumie, the actor portraying Jesus in the famous series The Chosen, found himself in the hot seat for portraying a Jesus that seems, well, a bit different than what some of the show's hosts expected. Now, in The Chosen, Jesus isn't just about miracles and parables. He's portrayed as someone speaking up on social issues. This interpretation stirred up quite the debate on The View. The hosts seemed to kind of turn this portrayal into a conversation about modern social justice, right? Like, is Jesus a 21st century social warrior now? So here's how it unfolded. They showed a segment from The Chosen where Jesus talks to the Pharisees. It's a pretty intense scene where he calls out the Pharisees for missing the bigger picture of justice, mercy, and faithfulness while focusing on trivial matters. And that's where the hosts started their, sort of, critique loop. Anyway, Joy Behar, one of the hosts, opened up the discussion with a remark about Jesus' usual portrayal. I mean, she literally said something about being relieved that this Jesus isn't the stereotypical blonde-haired, blue-eyed depiction.
We were just saying, at least you're not a blonde, blue-eyed Jesus, finally.
Yeah, I think we've gone a little more authentic to who Jesus might have actually been.
Jewish.
Yeah.
That does help. That does.
And seriously, that's where the conversation took a hilarious turn. Now, let's hit pause for a second here. Let's discuss why this matters. I mean, it's not just about hair and eye color. It's about how different people interpret significant figures in history, Jesus in this case. This isn't just about aesthetics. It's about the representation that resonates with audiences around the world. All right, so this portrayal of Jesus led to a broader conversation about who Jesus was. One of the panelists, Sunny Hostin, went on to highlight how this depiction was meaningful for her.
Were you a believer before that?
Yeah, I was raised with the faith from a child, but it really wasn't until after that moment, it was about almost 6 years ago now, where I just said, Jesus, I surrender myself to you, take care of everything. And that day, I received this incomprehensible financial miracle that changed my life. And then 3 months later, I booked The Chosen.
Wow.
She shared about attending a predominantly black Catholic church where Jesus is represented with brown skin, reflecting the diverse fabric of her community. That's quite important for her, considering she grows up seeing only one kind of image of Jesus. Now, is it crucial that adaptations of these spiritual figures reflect their multifaceted nature? As Sunny puts it, this takes the understanding of Christianity to the next level, weaving in the cultural and ethnic diversity of its origins.
One of our crew, Zach, came to me months ago and said, I'm Catholic. You got to watch this show about Jesus. I was like, I know a lot about Jesus. And I don't, obviously.
I think there's always more to learn.
There's always more to learn. And what that's, you're so profound. I think what was fascinating to me is growing up, I always saw the blonde-haired, blue-eyed Jesus.
Yeah.
Right? And now I go to a black Catholic church and Jesus is brown.
Yeah.
And I think it seems that you took such great pains to do that in this and to portray him as he probably likely was, since this was the Middle East, right? Most people don't know that. And he's also Jewish. So the show explores that, the way Judaism is woven into the story in such a beautiful way. Your cast is extremely diverse. Was that important to you and to your director, Dallas Jenkins, when this was coming together? Was that intentional?
Yeah.
So, Roumie responds indeed, saying that it was, kind of, the goal all along. The creator, Dallas Jenkins, and the team behind The Chosen aim to portray a Jesus and a world as authentic and believable as possible for the era and its people. This includes a diverse cast to mirror the vibrant and multi-ethnic communities Jesus himself would have been a part of. Okay, cue the criticism, right? Behar and Hostin both seem to advocate for this modern representation of diversity in historical retellings. But you know, there's a point of contention here. How historically accurate do we want to be versus how relatable should these portrayals be to modern audiences? So, here's the kicker. Over time, societies have traditionally adapted influential figures to mirror themselves, which totally makes sense when you think about it. This adaptation, however, isn't always about accuracy, but about making these spiritual figures more relatable.
I think, because of how we really take great pains to make these characters that most people know just from a few lines of scripture, or they see them in stained glass windows or in statues. We take them off of those pedestals and make them relatable, real-life people with marital problems, with issues of childbirth and the things that we go through today, the issues that we go through today. So by seeing essentially ourselves in these characters, like any great TV show, you start to identify. And then the fact that it's this story, that it's the greatest story ever told, now brings it to a whole other level. And they're like, oh, I can relate to Jesus in a way that I never thought I could before.
Think about it. Across continents and eras, artists have reimagined Jesus to reflect their own community's traits. In Ethiopia, Jesus has darker skin in Orthodox Christian art, closely matching native Ethiopian features.
Absolutely. So Dallas is the creator of the show. We have two other writers in addition to Dallas, and they wanted to bring to the screen the most authentic portrayal of Jesus and his disciples in this story, and its roots and its Jewishness and the diversity of the people and the colors and everybody that would have lived in these next to these seafaring towns. They were port cities.
Yeah.
So you had people from all walks of life, all colors, all shades that came through this place.
Yeah.
And so it only felt right to just depict what would have been truly authentic.
In China, traditional artworks depict Jesus with Asian characteristics. European art from the Renaissance, like the famous Last Supper, aligns Jesus with, well, European features. Okay, pivoting back to The View, the conversation took another turn with a key question from Joy. What about religion's role today? How is faith being used, sometimes even weaponized, in modern debates? That's when Jonathan Roumie shared his personal journey. You see, moving to LA, Roumie struggled without a steady job and ultimately turned to faith for guidance. He explained that he surrendered everything over to God during his hardest times. For him, his faith wasn't just a religious ritual, but a real guiding force during his toughest times. In essence, that's what made this segment on The View so intriguing. On one hand, you have the tension between modern social interpretations of Jesus and traditional theological contexts.
I'm like, nope, save it for the priest.
Jonathan, you can have fun with that.
Then I got to answer for it later, so.
True.
We'll have to atone.
I think what was fascinating to me is growing up, I always saw the blonde-haired, blue-eyed Jesus,
Yeah.
right? And now I go to a Black Catholic church and Jesus is brown.
In the clip that we saw earlier, which shows Jesus speaking up for marginalized people, the poor, etc., which is the Jesus that we love. Not everyone interprets that message the same way these days. Religion in this country even seems weaponized at times.
On the other hand, there are personal faith stories like Roumie's, which I guess transcend political and social borders. You see, audiences get to witness these perspectives clashing in real time over faith and representation, a discussion seriously overdue in many ways. So, what do you think about how public forums handle discussions of faith and cultural identity? Let me know in the comments below. The discussions surrounding these portrayals and how they're used can be quite polarizing, no doubt about it. Interestingly, across generations, societies have indeed shaped the icons, reflecting their experiences and values. It's a delicate balance between authenticity and relatability, and the impact is something we see resonating deeply in communities worldwide. To wrap this up, no matter where you stand on this debate, it's pretty clear that shows like The View will continue tackling sensitive topics, often leading us to examine what we think we know about history, spirituality, and culture. Alright guys, be sure to share your thoughts on this piece, and consider sharing this video if you found it thought-provoking. There are definitely more sides to the story. So, until next time, keep being curious, and let's keep these conversations going.